When it comes to season one of Bad Monkey, Vince Vaughn gives a strong reason to get Apple TV Plus as he leads and reminds you of the humor and charm that made him a movie star, but thankfully now, across multiple episodes, he shows you why that translates to being a TV star as well. So to summarize the season one, in Bad Monkey, we follow Andrew Yancey, who's played by Vince Vaughn, who's a former Miami detective who got downgraded to Key West. His career is currently in a bit of a flux since he had an affair with someone, he lost his cool with that person's husband, so now he's on probation. But while he is at this point of potentially losing his badge, he finds himself involved with a case given to him by his former partner Rogelio, and it involves a fisherman who found somebody's arm. Now, unbeknownst to Yancey, the person whose arm this belongs to is someone who's involved with murder, scams, has this crazy wife, and is involved with the gentrification and destruction of a culture on a Caribbean island that they're turning into a resort. So get into the review section. One of the top highlights for us is Natalie Martinez and Vince Vaughn's chemistry. For Natalie, who plays Rosa, who is Yancey's love interest, well, technically one or two, but the main love interest of season one. She's this medical examiner in Miami. She ends up joining the investigation, and she seeks something a bit more stimulating than what she's doing, and perhaps wants to see the investigation further up the chain rather than just see the dead body. And with that, you can see her slowly but surely try to integrate herself into the case, even as it risks her current job and this almost perfect track record that she's been on in life. Now, you could easily imagine when it comes to Vince Vaughn, especially with this being one of his first major outings in television, that he could just kind of squash this character. She's just a love interest, someone that plays off of him to make him look cool, attractive, etc. But I would say when it comes to Vaughn as a lead, he's someone that is definitely a bit more give and take. And when it comes to Martinez, she knows how to roll with the punches, give as good as she gets. And I would say that when Vaughn needs to have the spotlight on him when it comes to their relationship, he enjoys it, but at the same time, he's not against it also being on her. And this allows it so that you're not just thinking about Rose as a character, but also perhaps what Natalie Martinez can do outside of this role without Vince Vaughn, which is something that I don't think for a lot of shows they really push you to think about who the actor is rather than just enjoying the character. So this was definitely a special treat. With that said, Vince Vaughn is very much still doing his old stick of being someone who talks a mile a minute, is generally right, but also kind of annoying about it. And despite this shtick being something he's been doing for decades at this point, it still works. Andrew might be annoying, but he's a lovable character. And really, even though Martinez is the one that benefits the most from the interactions, to the point where you need to know or want to know the actress's name, I would say pretty much anybody that Vince Vaughn is working with, they benefit from having a scene with him. And it makes it so that you enjoy everybody part of the cast. And even if it is starring him, it does have that sort of ensemble feel, because even though I'm not fond of a handful of characters, there is a sense that he wants you to see them as important to the story, even if they may not have the same hook or selling point that he gives the show. Getting to the next highlight, Nick and Eve, who play the antagonists, their story and roles, I loved them for it. For when it comes to Bad Monkey, it may push you to think that it's going to lead more toward being a crime comedy rather than a crime drama, and it'll feature buffoons and stereotypes, especially of Floridians, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case. I mean, granted, I don't really know too many Floridians, and the Floridians I know are all people who migrated there, but I would say when it comes to Nick and Eve, they're not made into overly comical characters. They have funny moments, especially Eve, but it's never forgotten that they're supposed to be the antagonists. They're supposed to be villains, and they're made to be formidable to the point where you will question, even with Vince Vaughn being the most recognizable name, being funny and everything, and this being his major, I won't call it a comeback because he's been releasing movies, but this being one of the most biggest things he's released in a while, you would think that this is gonna be a smooth ride for him. But when it comes to Nick and Eve, they make it seem like he may not catch them. He may not win the case. He may not use them to perhaps get his career back. And I love that for him. And I love when it comes to these characters. Nick, for example, he doesn't fit some mobster, cold-blooded killer or somebody who stumbled into a situation type. He is smart in what he knows. He is very good at scamming people. And he still has this human quality to him, especially when you start to dig into his relationship with Eve and also his daughter Caitlin. You see a man who struggles with love and relationships, doing what's right, and even if he does scam Medicare or whatever in order to make money, at least in his past life, there's this sense that it's not to be cruel or to take away from the elderly, but because it's an easy way to make money, and it's better than working some 9 to 5 making minimum wage or having to work hard to barely get anything off of the profits that somebody else is making. So in a way, while you never kind of love to hate or kind of root for him or see Nick as somebody who from a different light could be seen as a good guy, at the very least they figure a way to make him human, but not to the point where you kind of want to give him a pass. They make it still very clear that despite the various things that you can identify with, from him being a lonely man when he met Eve, to perhaps being envious of his friend who had a wife and kid and maybe wanting that with Eve or some type of situation, he's still somebody that killed multiple people. Then, when it comes to Eve, oh my God, she's selfish, backstabbing, enjoys banter, but will reassert her position of power if needed. And I feel like she's the epitome of a love-take character, and definitely, alongside Caroline from Cruel Intentions, is one of those characters who I would say in some ways are a selling point for the show. I mean, besides Vince Vaughn, when you see Eve on screen, she's the one that's giving and taking as best as anybody else, and it's really, for people who aren't sharing a scene with Vaughn, making it so that she can be some kind of hook when it comes to the episode. Which leaves the last highlight, which is Rogelio. And I enjoy Rogelio because when it starts off, he seems like the stoic straight man to Yancey's mile-a-minute detective character, but as time goes on, they start evolving him. You begin to appreciate the fact that he is a man who later in life came out. Yancey kind of helped him through that, and you see that bond there that makes you wonder later on down the line when you learn that Rogelio has a husband, he's raising, I think, 2 kids, and then Yancey starts to get in trouble because he keeps going on about this investigation and case, even though he's not getting the support of his agency or even a federal agency. You see this sort of conflict begin. For Rogelio might have gotten Yancey on this case, but at the same time, you see Rogelio has a lot to lose again. He already lost his wife and his first family, so now is he going to really risk all that again, even if it is for the man who got him this family? It's an interesting sort of dynamic between the two that really pushes you to wonder, would Rogelio sacrifice his comforts in life for the man who gave him so much, who's been there for him for so much? And it makes it where, again, sort of like when it comes to the Eve and Nick thing, it's like, will this turn out well for Yancey, or will he find himself at best kind of ending the season out on an even level rather than at a loss or even at a greater gain? This leads us to the on-the-fence topics, and the first one has to be the way things are handled in the Caribbean islands. Now, let me start off with saying, when it comes to Neville, I dislike that character from the beginning, and what makes it worse is that the expectation is set up for Neville to be on the same level or equal to Yancey, yet when it comes to Ronald Pete, who plays him, there's no hook, there's no charm, there's nothing to really drive you to give a damn about this character and what they're going through. Now, maybe that's taken a bit too far because the gentrification of a Caribbean island, especially by some American, that is potentially interesting, but with the way that Bad Monkey plays out, they don't really go into that in a way that could kind of make that a form of a hook or something that really you want to engage with. But in some ways, I felt that in terms of the culture, Jodie Turner Smith as Gracie, or the Dragon Queen, she did bring something, especially because she has that look, she has that charisma, she has that presence that makes you want to pay attention. But unfortunately, Gracie is a small part of a bigger show, so as much as it's interesting to see her be a Yoruba priestess, learn about her background with her grandmother Yaya, and then her sort of twisted take on everything, especially because she kind of wants to get away from the island, yet she has so much history there. There's so much going on with that character, yet unfortunately, a lot of potential goes untapped even by the end of the season. Which leads to the next on-the-fence topic, which is Bonnie. Bonnie is the reason why Yancey ended up on probation, because he did something to her husband. But I don't really see why Bonnie was all that to be ruining your life for. Yes, she did challenge Yancey in some ways. She pushed him to read. Also, kind of seduced him with her wordplay, but again, I don't get it. It's like with Neville. There's just something missing there that clearly on the script there was supposed to be this like formidable, notable, whatever you want to call it, character, but the performance just wasn't giving to the point where what was on the page matches what was seen on screen. And add on that multiple times, it seemed like Bonnie was going to ride off into the sunset and then she ends up coming right back. It was just like, I thought we were free of this, and we was going to nap, and we was going to reallocate all that time to somebody that could better use it, yet here this woman is all over again. Why? Which leads to the last on the fence topic, and that's just when it comes to the finale, it's imperfect. As kind of danced around up to this point, a lot of factors go into Yancey potentially not being able to get the person, recover his badge, and things of that nature. And if you're someone who likes perfect and happy endings, that the hero gets everything they want, this is not a show for you, because you'll be frustrated with how this ends. For it's pretty much bittersweet. Yes, there are a certain level of comeuppances that are given, and when it comes to Yancey, you won't hate where things end, but you may feel like it could have been better. But at the same time, this show does leave a season 2 possibility, so even though Yancey may not end things on the best note, he's still, again, a very likable, lovable character who you want to see more of, so maybe not ending things on a perfect note leaves room for the type of growth that season 2 can provide. So overall, while Vince Vaughn shows himself to be a rare type of leading man who is an undeniable star, while giving to his co-stars, between characters with untapped potential to those who don't live up to the investment given to them, at times Bat Monkey could seem like it relies a little bit too heavy on Vaughn to make it through. But because of Yancey, Eve, Nick, Rosa, and even at times Gracie, the blights and blemishes can be subject to selective memory, for there is far more good out of this show than there is stuff worth criticizing.